Okay, so if you're watching this video now, so now you, in your sketchbook or on paper, you have already completed a page full of 4 different designs of 2D shapes. Okay, and then you've already completed another page of just the 3D forms, Okay, and so now what you'll do after you've completed that is then you'll turn again your page again, and now we're going to put 2D and 3D together. All right, and so what I did on my sketchbook is I kind of created like 2 different squares. So I want you to do this now just 2 times instead of the 4. So number 1 and number 2. So you can draw 2 squares in your sketchbook like I just did, or if you want to, divide your sketchbook in half, you can do something like that. It's really up to you. But now you're going to create 2 different designs of the 2D and 3D together. All right, so I'll do a couple just so you get the idea. So this is when it gets a little bit trickier, I feel like, because now we're like having to put these together. And you have so many options. What I would suggest is you look back on your previous pages of your 2D shapes and your 3D forms and kind of get ideas from that and how you're going to be putting them together. So let me just do a couple examples. So again, you can do letters, you can do numbers, just random shapes. You don't really want this to turn into like a picture of something, and I'll show you an example later on. This is just all about design. And also, when you're doing this, you want to make sure you have things that are overlapping, like your shapes and forms that are overlapping one another. You want to think about size, so make sure you have shapes and forms that are different sizes. And then you want to have some stuff that are touching the edges of your picture here, or your square. Okay, you don't just want it all floating in the middle that we talked about in those other videos. So maybe now I want to have an L on top of my T. So now I want to make my L into a form. I could have left my L as a shape, but I'm going to make it into a form. And see how then I erased where my L was on top of my T, because now it looks like it's overlapping. Maybe I want to have an O. So I could leave my O flat or an oval, or I could make it 3-dimensional by adding those other lines. Maybe I want to have something over here. Oh, also when I started this, or when you start your design, remember you can always plug in those, the rule of thirds, and think about where you want your focal points to be at one of those intersections if you want. Maybe I'll have another 3-dimensional shape over here. So these are all kind of the same shape and size. So maybe now I want to start and do things that are a little bit smaller. Maybe I want to just put in some simple circles. Maybe I want to do some more just flat shapes. Maybe I want to balance it out and have some more going over here. Maybe some more there. So I have things that are overlapping. I have things that are different size, so small, medium, and large. And then I have some stuff that's touching the edges. And I have now forms and shapes. So there's a lot of stuff that you have to have in these 2 pictures. So that could be one. It can be as simple as that. Let me do another one. Let me move this up so you can see. All right, so let me do another one. I like to do those fun, goofy shapes like that. I could leave it flat, Or I could make it three-dimensional. So I'm going to make it three-dimensional by adding lines like this, and now it looks like it's thick. Maybe this one I want to have a hole in it, because now I'm going to put something through it. Let me fix that. So when I do this, I need to have a line there to now make it look like it has thickness. Let's have something go through this. Maybe like a cone or a diamond of some sort. So, and again, you know, I'm drawing all of this without a ruler or a straight edge. You can obviously be using that. I'm just not. So I can leave it like this, so where it's flat, or I want to make it look like it has a little bit of depth. So I added another small line on this side. So now again, to make it look like this is going through that funky shape, I'm going to erase that funky shape that's underneath it. So now it'll look like it's on top of it and going through it. All right. Maybe I want to have another one up here. And they're kind of coming to a point. Did I think about my rule of thirds? I kind of have a lot of stuff happening here, but then my eye is kind of getting directed to over here, so that's okay. Now I need some flat shapes in here. I have a lot of three-dimensional stuff right now. So let's just do another fun squiggly shape, but let's keep it flat. So I just add another line, and I like how it's kind of going through my composition. Now I need some smaller things happening. So maybe now I'm gonna keep adding more triangles. I like that shape. Why not? But I want them to overlap that squiggly thing. So now I'm gonna erase what's underneath, so now that it looks like they're on top of that squiggly thing. Maybe I add some circles. I like to add circles. Maybe they're big, maybe they're small. Again, I need to kind of erase there to make it look like it's on top of. Maybe I want to add another squiggly up here, or maybe I don't. It's really up to you with these two. Just as long as you have things that are touching edges, which I have a lot of that. I have things that are overlapping. I have a lot of that happening, and I have different sizes of stuff. I have big stuff, medium, small, okay? So all of that stuff, and then I have my flat shapes, the 2D shapes, and then I have forms. So all of that has to be happening in these two thumbnails or two sketches. So again, this is when we're putting the 2D and the 3D together, okay? So those are just my two examples. I'm gonna show you examples from other students, like pretty old ones actually, that I've just saved. And I'll kind of like just hold it here for a little bit so you can kind of look at these and use these for ideas. Because the possibilities are endless on what you can do. Here's another one. And again, you can always come back to this video and kind of look at these examples and pause it. So they have this fun ribbon, this crazy pyramid thing, the rectangle to stars. Overlapping is happening. This one's a little bit more not as filled up as much, but there is still a lot going on. They have this fun noodly shape that's kind of intertwining over and in everything. See how they shaded it in? You do not have to shade it in to show where you have depth. You can, but it's not a requirement. You can just keep it all line. Here's another one. Hopefully you can see it a little bit. They have a lot of funky shapes and stars and twirly things. Okay, so see how up here they made this look like a lock from like a locker or something? That's something you don't want to do. You don't want to turn these shapes and forms into recognizable things. It's really tempting to because that's just our nature, but you don't want that. Arrows are fine, stars are fine. In that first picture, there were some hearts. Hearts are fine, but try not to turn things into smiley faces or houses or clouds or anything recognizable. There's that one. Here's this one. You can do numbers. I've done numbers. You can do letters, but instead of, try not to make it be like your name spelled out. Like you can do the letters in your name, but just kind of jumble them up. This one has done some shading. Again, that's not required. You can, but it's not required. So this one's really simple and neat, their design. Here's some more. Again, they have this big shape, a big form, some forms in here. These are all just random shapes and then forms. And there's overlapping, touching the edge, different sizes. And here's another one. It kind of has some paint on it. I use these as examples. And then there's this one. Again, this person did a little bit of shading in, not required. So this one has cherries. They turned it into something recognizable. You don't want to do that. They have a flower. Again, something you don't want to do. An apple. Again, something you don't want to do. Stars are fine. Okay, so for this assignment, this big assignment project, you have in your sketchbook, there's just going to be 4 pictures of just the shapes. So here's an example of somebody's sketchbook from last year. These are just shapes. And then after you're done with those 4 pictures of shapes, flip your page, and then you do forms. This is a really nice example of another student's forms. And then, after you're done with that, then what we just went over was, now you're going to make 2 more. This person divided their sketchbook in half all the way, of the shapes and forms together. So here's a shape, 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 forms, shapes, okay? And then down here is another one of the shapes and forms together.